What's going on, guys? My name's Ryan and this is the SSN. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today we have a guest appearance and that is the giant pimple on my face. What is going on? I don't know why it came up, but I guess that Mr. Pimple was just very excited to talk about the Dolphins. So, guest appearance, we got a cool video for you guys today, something kind of quick, easy to touch on. Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 performances from week 2, but also I do want to give you my post-game analysis with that. I know I didn't give you one for week 1, so I'm going to be giving you one for my week 2, and we're going to kind of bunch it all together. It's a bit of a shorter week before week 3 because we do play on Thursday. So I did want to just kind of throw them both into one video, hopefully not make it too long for you guys. And then we will definitely be talking in the comments down below. So first things first, let's go ahead and talk about the game. So week 2 against the Buffalo Bills, we do have not a ton to talk about, but enough. There is enough to talk about. So let's go ahead and start things off with the offense. So first things first, the offense had a really solid day. I was very impressed with the way that the offense played against the Bills, who have a very good defense, guys. This is a solid defense in the NFL. They've got good cornerbacks. They have a good defensive line. Their linebackers were out, though, and I think that's a very big contributing factor to how the Dolphins played on Sunday against the Bills. Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds, they were both out of the game. Those are two big pieces on that Buffalo defense. So, maybe that was a big factor in why some players for the Dolphins played as good as they did. But we still did have a solid day, and we're going to talk real quickly about some of the players in a little bit who really stood out to me. So, like I said, guys, the offense played very solid. We put up 28 points. And in most games, that should be absolutely enough to win that game for you, especially when we're clicking like we were. The offensive line was doing its job for the most part. Now, Ryan Fitzpatrick did get sacked a few times, so not quite as good as we were during week 1, but it's still an improved offensive line, and that's something that you definitely have to, keep your mind going on it, is remembering how bad, just how absolutely criminally bad this offensive line was last year, and then look at what we're doing this year. The offensive line is clearly improved. It's clearly much better this year. The pass coverage is a lot better. The run blocking is better, not a lot better. I'm not going to say that, but it is a little bit better, and there's still tons of room to improve. Along with that, our receivers not doing a bad job. Tight ends, clearly from yesterday, doing a pretty solid job, and the running backs, kind of in the middle. There are some guys who are standing out and really having solid seasons like Myles Gaskin, but on the other end of that, someone like Jordan Howard, what's going on with Jordan Howard? So, there's a lot to talk about with the offense, but like I said, we did put up 28 points against a very solid Buffalo Bills defense. So in most games, like I said, it should be enough to win you the game. So what happened? And I'll tell you guys what happened. What happened is the defense kind of just decided, let's not play today. I'm not really feeling it. It's a little hot outside. I don't want to put too much effort in. This defense on Sunday, guys, was horrific. It was so bad. And they are the reason why we lost the game. And that's something to talk about. It wasn't on Ryan Fitzpatrick, and a lot of you were saying that from week 1 with the 3 interceptions. Ryan Fitzpatrick threw 3 touchdowns and no picks, or 2 touchdowns and no picks, rather, trying to think through the game. But, Ryan Fitzpatrick had a good game. No interceptions. The run blocking was decent. We had some production on the offensive side of the ball, and we put up 28 points. So we lost this game because the defense just decided to absolutely blank the bed. I'm going to say that because I don't want to let it loose on YouTube, but they absolutely what did they do? Where were they? They were nowhere. And there's a couple of reasons for that. A, the run blocking for this defensive line, or run stopping for this defensive line, not as good as it needs to be. This run stopping defensive line, we have a lot of big body guys. You have Christian Wilkins, you have Devon Godchow, you have Raekwon Davis, who you drafted. You have Emmanuel Ogbah, who's a decent run stopper. You have Shaq Lawson, who should be able to get after the quarterback more. You have Kyle Van Noy, who we picked up, and then you have linebackers who should be able to do their job to stop the run, and we just flat out cannot do that. What's going on? Why is our defensive line not doing their job as well as they should. It's just something that I sit here scratching my head. Why are we not performing the way that we should? This defense should be much better. And that's not even talking about the main issue of the day yesterday, which was, clearly, guys, far and away, the secondary. What in the world was the secondary doing? It was just, guys, it was so bad. I'm trying not to get pissed off on YouTube. But it's a really frustrating thing because it's so frustrating. Think about the money that we shelled out for the defense over the offseason. And that's, we paid a lot of money to get a lot of guys on the team. We had a lot of draft picks that we had to sign, but think about the moves that we made to improve the defense and in particular the secondary. We signed Byron Jones to, at the time, the highest paid contract to a cornerback ever. We already had Xavier Howard locked up for a long, very expensive deal. We then drafted Noah Igbenogany in the first round, which made no sense to me. When we made that draft pick, to me, it was such a confusing pick because we had already locked up two guys on both ends for our boundary who, they're making so much money. It makes up the highest paid cornerback tandem in NFL history. We're paying these guys an exponential amount of money. It's a lot of money that we're putting out for Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. So at that point, why are we drafting a cornerback in the first round? I don't care if he's late or early. You're spending a first round pick on a position that we have locked up financially and lengthwise. It didn't make any sense to me. And if their intention was to, draft Noah Igbenogany in the late first round and then plug him in at the slot, you could find a good slot cornerback, for very cheap. You don't have to pay, you don't have to shell out your life savings for a formidable slot cornerback in free agency. You don't have to dump a ton of money into your slot position. B, you could have drafted a slot guy later in the draft, and that's perfectly fine. That would have been easy to do. You could draft there's plenty of slot cornerbacks in the draft that come out every year, and they perform. They do fine. It's not a position where you need some superstar. You just need a guy who can cover the middle of the field and can stick to his guy. So you find guys like that all the time in the draft. And then C, you could have drafted a safety and moved Bobby McCain down to slot where he has experience and did pretty well. So there are three options there that you could have done to address the slot cornerback role. But the Miami Dolphins just didn't do that. They did none of that. They paid two cornerbacks ridiculous amounts of money, and then they drafted another cornerback in the first round. Then they drafted a safety who is not as good as all the other safeties that were on the board at that point. And then they invested a ton of money into the defensive line. And so far, guys, this defense has absolutely looked horrific. It's been so bad. And the thing that blows my mind is Brian Flores is a defensive coach. He is a defensive coach. He was a linebackers coach for New England. And coming into Miami, everyone said, his defenses are going to be great because he was in that New England system. He was their linebackers coach. He was a linebacker. He has that defensive makeup. His DNA is built defensively. So his defensive teams with Miami are going to be so much improved and they're going to be great. They're going to flow. And I literally don't understand what is going on with this defense. It's just so bad. And as a coach who is some defensive, monster, some defensive genius, whatever you want to call him, wouldn't you think that his defense would be better than this? So is it a matter of coaching? Is it a matter of talent? Is it a matter of, our general manager just doesn't know what the hell he's doing? It's just very, very weird to me that this defense isn't performing the way that they should. Not with all the money that we've spent, not with all the draft picks that we've spent, and not with all of the rebuilding, redesigning this entire defense, starting with a new scheme, doing all of those things. The defense threw the game away on Sunday. We were up at one point against Buffalo, who is a very good team, who was a playoff team last year, and will certainly be a playoff team this year, and I have them to win the division. I think that this is the division winner right here in Buffalo, and we were up against them at one point. We were up 20-17, if I'm not mistaken, And it's just kind of a frustrating thing that the defense, when your offense scores, like I said it a million times, and I know that I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but when your offense puts up 28 points, your defense should be able to hold the other team and be able to help win that game. But Miami's defense was nowhere to be found. They were everyone was wide open. And I know that Byron Jones got hurt, guys, and that's another issue. And I understand that you can't help that the guy hurt his groin. He's going to be out. He might be out on Thursday too. So this might be a lingering injury. I hope not. But then it's still the point of, well, we also paid him a ridiculous amount of money and he's already hurt week 2. So let's say that he misses a few games. Well, we're paying him a ridiculous amount of money. We're paying Xavier Howard, who's only one guy. And then you've drafted Igbinoghene, who absolutely got lit up. He got lit up all day. Got lit up. Everyone was getting such large chunks against Igbinoghene, against Needham. Bobby McCain wasn't helping like he needed to. Xavier Howard blew coverage a couple of times. So it's just, to me, guys, it's just a frustrating thing because this defense needs to do better. And this it's kind of like a flipped script. The script has really kind of been turned around here because through recent years, the defense has really been the driving force behind the reason why the Dolphins have been as good as they have been. And that's not saying much. But that offense is really what needed to take that next step to really kind of have a complete team. And it's just so strange to me that after all the investment that we made in this defense, that it's just a completely opposite story now. The shoe's on the totally opposite foot. The offense is what's keeping this team going, and the defense is just, it's amateur hour. I mean, you could put out a better high school defense onto the football field at this point. It's so bad. So that's my rant. I know that I went off, and I'm sorry. I'm just a little frustrated because I have an expectation that when the Dolphins pay the money that they pay for these guys shelling out, I mean, we went into free agency with $120 million in free agency. My expectation is that if we're going to spend a lot of that you better perform, or else what are you doing with all that money? So, and then it just kind of becomes this cyclical thing where if we're not, paying enough, then we don't have the talent. If we overpay, then we have, the talent, but, they're not performing. And so it's kind of one issue after another at this point. And it's definitely frustrating as a fan of the Dolphins, as someone who wants to see my team do as good as possible. But with all that said, guys, I do have hope. Of course I have hope. We're Dolphins fans. We're all Dolphins fans, hopefully watching this channel. So there are better days ahead. It is early in the season, and I definitely give credit where credit is due. It's early in the season. We're only in week number 2. So there's plenty of room to grow. There's plenty of room for improvement. And so, I'm just going to leave the rant and the frustration there because things are going to change. If we saw the way that, the Dolphins performed last year, and how different it was from the first few weeks of the season all the way until, week 16, week 17. That was a totally different team. And I fully expect that this year. So, I'm trying not to get too frustrated too soon. It is what it is. I would just like to see more out of this defense right now, just considering how much money and how much we've invested into that side of the ball. So I'm leaving my overview of the game away, and now I'm just going to really quickly touch on my top 5 performances, top 5 standouts, whatever you guys want to call it, for week 2. And we're going to start it off with Emmanuel Ogbah. So Emmanuel Ogbah had a pretty solid game. He did have a sack. If I'm not mistaken, he had a forced fumble. He had a couple of nice plays at the line of scrimmage, and he did pressure the quarterback a couple of times. So Emmanuel Ogbah had a pretty solid day. Good to see some extra pressure on the quarterback because there hasn't been any of that so far. So Emmanuel Ogbah doing his job. I wanted to include at least one defensive guy, even though I absolutely ripped the defense in this video. So Ogbah had a solid day. I'm happy for him there. So number 2 coming up is going to be Ryan Fitzpatrick. He also had a very good day. And like I said, I'll read off my notes real quick. Fitz cleaned up the turnovers against one of the better defenses in the NFL and had a pretty solid game considering the poor offensive line protection. So, Fitzpatrick had a good day. He threw 3 interceptions first week, and then he threw none this week with a good amount of yards and a good amount of touchdowns. I was happy with how Fitzpatrick played. He really did bounce back strong from week 1, so good to see Fitzpatrick there doing his thing. Number 3, and this is in no particular order, by the way, guys. Number 3 is going to be Isaiah Ford. Also, a really, really solid game from Isaiah Ford. I think he had like 7 catches for 60 or 70 yards, something like that. He had a solid day. Excuse me, solid day. And just good to see him perform. Good to see him get some play time, because I definitely see plenty of potential in a guy like Isaiah Ford. He's got the size, he's got the speed, he has good hands. And he's pretty good after the catch too. So I like what I saw from Isaiah Ford. Really, really solid to see some production out of him. So number 1 and number 2, guys, it's going to be Myles Gaskin and Mike Gesicki. Clearly, Mike Gesicki is going to be number 1. So let's just talk about Myles Gaskin real quick. Another really, really solid day for him, staying active in the passing game, obviously active in the running game. But, you know, I saw something a little different out of Myles Gaskin in week 2 than I did in week 1. And that was when he got through his hole, he was bouncing off tackles, man. He was getting hit and staying up and fighting and putting his head down and doing what he needed to do. And that was something that I didn't see a ton of out of Myles Gaskin in week 1. I was blown away with just the fight, the effort that was coming through from him in week 2. Really, really good to see solid stuff out of a 7th round draft pick. For him to be getting the majority of the starting time, the majority of the time on the field, and the majority of the snaps, that's killer. I'm really happy to see that out of Myles Gaskin. So moving on to number 1, and I think before we do this, guys, excuse me, man, my eyes are so watery. I want to give a quick honorable mention too, and the honorable mention is going to be Solomon Kindley, who has been having a good couple of weeks so far, good couple of games. Solomon Kindley, when you look back at the film of the game, you don't see many mistakes. This guy is pretty well polished, power type guy. He's got some good agility for someone who's, you know, a big, bulky, heavy dude. Got some good agility. You know, he pass protects well. He run blocks well. He does everything pretty well-rounded and polished, and I really, really like that about him. So that's our honorable mention. I think he was really solid in week 2 and in week 1. He's been really solid so far. So great to see out of him, especially considering we picked him up a little bit later in the draft. So moving on, Mike Gesicki is going to be our number 1 standout. Clearly from week 1, he was absolutely ridiculous. I think 8 catches, 130 yards, and a touchdown is what Mike Gesicki produced for the Dolphins on Sunday against the Buffalo Bills. Now, like I said earlier in the video, and I know I'm running long here, so I'm going to wrap this up real quick, but I know I said earlier in the video that the linebackers, the 2 main starting linebackers for Buffalo were out, and so that probably contributed a lot to Mike Gesicki's production, because he really did have a huge day over the middle of the field. Now, if Milano and Edmonds were in the game, would that have happened? I don't know. Probably not to the extent that it did, but because those 2 guys were off the field, that opened so much up for Gesicki to do whatever he wanted. The one-handed catch later in the game, ridiculous. The catch in the end zone with, I believe it was Tre'Davious White wrapped all over him, was ridiculous. Mike Gesicki just had a day. He had such a day, and he is going to be killer in the future, guys. If he keeps moving forward, producing like he is, this guy, I'm telling you, one of the best tight ends in the league. He's an absolute monster, and I love to see it out of Gesicki. So, guys, that is the video. Thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate you checking out everything that we have to say here on the channel. If you are new, definitely feel free to subscribe if you like what you're seeing. Hit that bell icon as well so you can get notifications and be kept up to date with all the awesome content that we have coming up. And without further ado, guys, I really do appreciate you coming by to check everything out here. I will catch you guys on Thursday for our Thursday night game. Really, really excited. So I got a lot of videos coming out for you guys very soon now. So I'll catch you guys next time. Enjoy your night. And as always, fins up.